Hi there, my name is Patti McDougall, and I will be sharing with you a bunch of short videos that kind of take my workshop, which is anxiety with children, or the many different phases of anxiety, and it takes my bigger workshop, which is 2 or 3 hours, and puts it into chunks of 15 minutes that I think A, they suit our busy lifestyle, and B, it's the way our fast-paced society likes to learn. So I'm going to give you little 15-minute chunks of information that you can listen to at your own leisure. So today we are talking about giving children scripts or vocabulary, which is a way to help them move forward sometimes with their anxiety. So as many of you know, and if you don't know, I'll just refresh your memory, when we feel stressed or anxious, we're wired in different ways. So we're wired either to flight, and that might mean take off, right? Run away from this situation. We're wired to freeze, where we're just paralyzed and can't do anything. We're wired to fight, right? Which is like going toe to toe, and you're going to get aggressive and angry because it's like fighting a bear. You're scared and you're going to fight back. There's other ways as well, and I'm going to touch on some of them, in other little videos, but today I'm just going to touch on them briefly. There's one called fawn, where we trip over ourselves to people please because we want to avoid this uncomfortable feeling of stress, and we think by people pleasing it will bring everything down, and it will calm the room, and I'm just going to trip over myself to like make sure that everybody's happy and that I can make this feeling kind of calm down a little bit. There's another one that is just all, it just comes from me because I've seen it sometimes in my own youngest son, is that we get funny. We tell jokes. We've seen this in adults, awkward situations, things get a little bit stressed or heated or feelings are uncomfortable, and we tell jokes. Children sometimes will tell jokes or they'll get silly in order to change the mood in the room, or change and get away from this awkward situation, this feeling of stress. So they might get a little bit silly, and we see that kind of behavior as well. So today what I want to touch on is one way of dealing with some of these ways that we react to stress is by giving children scripts or vocabulary. So giving them the words when they're in these moments is so important. A lot of times we say, use your words. And then they're like, okay, what words? It's not specific enough. We're not giving them the words in order to minimize what's going on in the room or help them problem solve with what's happening for them. A lot of times we just hear screaming, yelling, stop, and the other child who's having a grand old time and doesn't realize what they're doing is triggering this other child. Is like, stop what? I'm having a blast. Because maybe they can't read the social cues yet and are just doing something that's completely driving the other one crazy, and they just don't know it. They're having a blast. What's the problem? So by giving children scripts and vocabulary of how to deal with these situations is really important, because all of us have this lovely like filing cabinet brain where as we learn things, we put it in a file, we put it in this filing cabinet, and then when we need it, hopefully, we will pull that file forward and be like, oh, this is what I need to do in this situation. So what we're constantly doing with children is giving them some files in these file folders that after a situation has occurred, we can tell them and give them some tools, strategies, scripts and vocabulary, what to do next time. Oh, this is what I need to say the next time. And the more times they do that, the more times it just becomes almost just second nature, and they'll be able to solve it themselves and use appropriate language when these situations occur. It might not happen immediately. Some of us, it takes us a few times of practicing before it becomes second nature for us. It's really important to be able to give them these words and these feeling words and vocabulary. So I'm going to tell you a story, because that's what I will always probably do on these little videos, is I'll share a story that hopefully can help you relate to what I'm talking about and understand what this looks like in real life. So I will always share stories either about children I've encountered. Most of the times it'll be about my own 2 boys. I'll try not to mention their names, but I have an older child and a younger child who are now no longer children. One's turned 18 and one's 16 and a half. So I can use their examples because I look at them now as very successful human beings, that a lot of these tools and strategies have worked for them over the years, and that's what I want to share with you. So I call this story the hot dog story, and it's definitely a good story that really shows about giving scripts is important. This was by grade 3, and my oldest son was starting to get very successful, or more successful at school. Things were doing better for him. And so this was midway through the year, and it was a new teacher who didn't know any of my oldest son's past and what that looked like. So she was having an easy year with him. There wasn't a lot of big hurdles, blips, big meltdowns. It looked pretty nice for her. So she hadn't experienced a lot of the bigger things that have happened previous years that the rest of us knew how far he had come, including his aide at the time, who knew that, oh, we're doing good right now. So every Friday was hot lunch day at the school, and usually it was hot dog day. And of course, as kids would have it, my youngest son just liked a plain hot dog, didn't like the two textures of the bun and the hot dog, and my oldest son liked the bun and the hot dog. So for the previous couple of Fridays, of course, my oldest son had just been given the hot dog, because that lovely hot lunch lady just thought both boys were the same and had given them both plain hot dogs. So my oldest son, I think this had happened on a couple of Fridays, and he'd had enough. He wanted this bun. And to give you a little bit of background, my oldest son would never at this point walk into a room full of people already, whether adults, children, whatever. He could not get on the school bus first when they went for a field trip. I mean, he had to go on the school bus first when they went on a field trip. He couldn't just walk into a school bus full of kids. He just felt all eyes were on him, and that was enough to send his stress levels through the roof. He couldn't walk into a classroom late because, again, that feeling of all eyes are on me. So we always had to be first into things, first into classroom, first on the school bus, first out at recess, because of that feeling of everybody watching him. So that's a little bit of background. He had never walked into a room that's full of people. That's just uncomfortable for him. So here we are on this Friday, hot dog day, and he just has a hot dog and he's mad, right? He wants his problem solved. So he stomped into the staff room full of staff and demanded that he be given a bun, right? He was like completely thought this hot lunch lady was out to get him. So he demanded this bun. And the teacher, bless her heart, she hadn't seen this kind of behavior before, and she thought this was extremely rude, right? She saw this behavior and thought it very rude. And so she, of course, pulled him to the side, and she admonished him and said, that was very rude. You need to apologize. You can't make demands like that. And of course, my oldest son, who really respected this teacher and looked up to her and really liked her, felt like he had disappointed her and felt embarrassed. So he shut right down, right? And at this point, when he shuts down, he gets highly angry and aggressive. So he is mad. He's in the hallway. I hate school. I hate life. He's not talking to anyone. He is shut down. He's not going to class. He's not budging. He's not moving. He's just angry and shut down. So of course I get the phone call to come get him. And at this point, obviously this is not the time to have a big lengthy discussion about what did you do, what should you do, blah, 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 blah. He is shut down. He is not engaged in his logical brain. He is not in any shape to have these deep discussions. I need to bring him home. I need to wait for him to calm down to have these discussions. This is where communication is so important, that that I know that this is happening for him, that I know the full story so that I can talk to him about it. Because obviously he's in no condition to have a discussion with anyone at the school at this level, right? And who knows, even by 3 o'clock, if they had left him there, if he'd be calm enough to have that discussion. I know when I take him home, once bedtime hits, we've had a nice bath, we've had our bedtime routine, he's nice and calm, that's the time that I can have these discussions and maybe figure out, what to do the next time. So of course I wait till bedtime, not to mention that, I kind of celebrated the fact that he had walked into this staff room, different perspective for me. I'm like, what? He walked in a room for adults and got his needs met? Oh! That is amazing. So having that perspective, I'm celebrating, not angry that he was rude or demanding, because for me, this was a celebration for him to walk into this room to want to get his needs met. That was huge. So of course, I started off the conversation with him really celebrating that. I love that you walked into the staff room and got your needs met. This was a big deal. You walked into a group of people. Way to go, kiddo. Like, that was amazing. Let's talk about how you did it. And so I explained to him that by walking in and demanding that, it can be seen as rude. You didn't use a lot of manners there. You could have probably asked a little bit nicer. So maybe next time, if this happens again, you can walk in calmly and say, excuse me, I think that they forgot the bun. Can I get a bun, please? And he just looked at me. He goes, oh yeah, I can do that. That's easy. I'm like, I know you can do that. So just remember to do that next time. He didn't do it on purpose. He wasn't being rude on purpose. He just had a need that needed to be met, and he went and bluntly, asked for what he needed. And yes, he didn't do so in a polite way, but that is like secondary to what he had actually achieved. So, but if you had the full backstory, his EA, of course, was like, what? She was with me because she's walked the path with him and realized we were celebrating something at that moment. But the teacher who didn't know the backstory, of course, just saw it as it was, a child that was being demanding and rude in that moment. So, of course, now he has the script, right? This is what I need to do next time this occurs. It's in my file folder that I can pull forward when this situation occurs again. That's why communicating within everybody is so important. This isn't just for the teacher and him to have this discussion about it. It's for the aide to know. It's for me to know. It's for all other educators and teachers to know about the situation so that we now know what to do next time. If they just are in an isolated incident, don't share this, or if I wasn't privy to it, let's say he had a meltdown at school and I didn't get the phone call, I didn't pick him up, I pick him up at 3 and I have this grumpy, horrible child that I don't know what's going on. I can't give him the scripts. I can't talk him through it when he's calm. I don't know how to help him or best support him. So that's why it's important to share what's happened. And then I can also share, this is what I did. I gave him the script. So every Friday, I remind him, just in case you don't get a bun in your hot dog, what are you supposed to do? And of course he's like, yeah, I know, Mom. But it's important for the teacher and the aide to know that too. So if they see him and he doesn't get the bun and he's about to march in the staff room, they might be able to say, remember what you need to do. Oh, right, I need to ask nicely. Okay, so that's why it's important for everyone to know, and it's important that they get these scripts and this vocabulary in order to share in a way that now is logical for them. They just pull that file folder and we can talk about it. It's important to sometimes talk to children and depending on the age, right? It's really nice to say, how big is this worry for you? Now, not only have I learned this from my lovely, lovely colleague, Angela Ray from Haven. She always used this kind of vocabulary, which I love. So I'd love to give her credit for that. But it's also from a program called EASY, EASEY, Everyday Anxiety Strategies for Early Years. I highly recommend doing that program as well. It's got a lot of really awesome strategies that I will share with you again during this time. But one of them is, how big is this worry? For young children, it might be, is it as big as a watermelon? Is it as big as an orange? Is it as big as a grape? Like, how big is this worry? And how can we get this worry from a watermelon size to maybe an orange size? We're not going to go straight for the grape. Let's just go one step below. Or if it's an older child, you can say, how big is this worry? Is this like a 10? Like you're about to take a leap off of the biggest diving board you've ever seen? Or, is it a 1 where it's like, okay, we're just like, going into the wading pool. So by giving them, a visual with it too, it helps them think about how big this is. And what can we do to get it so that it's more manageable for you? So I'm hoping those little tips and strategies help you today. I will obviously share some more the next time. But it's all about helping our children in this world thrive. We want them to thrive and not just survive and tread water and keep their head up. we want them to thrive in this world.